Hello, and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And today, this one is a bit of a special one, a bit of a different one. As you can see, I'm hosting this episode as a bit of a surprise change as we cover our newest episode in our series, What's Wrong With, as we take a deep dive into what is wrong and what has plagued the Green Bay Packers franchise following their loss to the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round of this year's playoffs in Lambeau Field. So, Drew, what do you say? You ready?
Let's run it, Tim.
You know it. So the Packers fall 13-10 in this year's playoffs. And to look at a little order of events and what caused the drastic turn of momentum, which led to the game-winning field goal for the 49ers, we start right before halftime, where the Packers had a chance to go into halftime with a solid 10-0 lead after a crucial 75-yard pass to Aaron Jones to set up a 39-yard attempt for Mason Crosby, which got blocked by Jimmy Ward for the 49ers. And that was just the beginning for the special teams miscues for the Packers in this one. After Robbie Gould field goal put the 49ers down only a touchdown with the score of 10-3, the biggest turning point in the game came from a blocked punt, which ended up returned for a touchdown. And suddenly the game was tied after the Packers seemingly in control for most of the game, despite being up only one score. As anyone who paid attention to the game knows, the rest is history, as the 49ers would then go on to set up a 45-yard field goal as time expired to win it. But that only covers this year's miscues for the Packers, and we've seen some of this before. In fact, a lot of this before, as the Packers have had back-to-back 13-3 seasons in which they lost in the NFC Championship in back-to-back years in the 2019 and 2020 seasons. So, Drew, you've seen a lot more of this in depth and detail as over these years. What was different?
Oh boy, have I.
What was different in this year's as opposed to previous years? Where, because as you said, you thought this was the year. Now, granted, you say that a couple times before and whatnot, as kind of all Packers do or all Packers fans have. But what was supposed to be different this year?
So what was supposed to be different was we felt like we had a complete team on both sides of the ball, both offensively and defensively, that could go out and shut teams down and make a statement and control the game pretty thoroughly, because in past years, we didn't exactly have that, where the defense was an issue with, our run defense, or we didn't have enough corners, or, we didn't have enough weapons for Rodgers, or this, that, and the other. This year, I looked at the offensive talent that we had and the defensive talent that we had, and I thought, okay, this is it. As long as special teams doesn't shoot us in the foot, the other foot, both arms, and the chest, should be fine. This is a Ferrari. Don't take the wheel, Mason Crosby and Corey Bojorquez, and crash it.
Yeah, well, they did a little bit.
But Corey Bojorquez crashed it. That Ferrari crashed and burned with the special teams. And we could see it all season long with miscues on kickoff returns, on punt returns, in the kicking game, with holds, with punts being shanked or punted out of bounds. It was all across the board. The collective special teams unit for the Packers ranked 32nd in the league this year, dead last. Do you know how difficult it is to be worse than the Jaguars, the Jets, the Lions, the Texans, the Giants, all of those teams at something? You know how hard that is to do? If
it's kind of hard to fathom in a way.
It's so frustrating.
To be the number one seed in the NFC and be so good at so many things, yet be so absolutely terrible at that. It's like,
and that was our Achilles heel, and that's why we lost, right? Could Aaron Rodgers have played a lot better? Of course, right? Did it help that A.J. Dillon fractured a rib halfway through the game? No, that did not help. But Aaron Jones was doing it through the air and the ground. Devontae Adams was playing out of his mind. He was catching everything in sight that he could, right? And the defense, I think they did a pretty okay job of limiting Jimmy Garoppolo, Deebo Samuel, and Elijah Mitchell.
They didn't give up an offensive touchdown.
No, they didn't. They did not give up an offensive touchdown.
You can't ask for much more than that.
No. but a missed field goal and a block punt was the death of us. And I don't know. It's frustrating. I don't have many more words other than it's frustrating. So
yeah, exactly. It's still pretty fresh. There's still a lot to kind of unpack from no pun intended there. From this game. But as you've said, is we've seen a lot of this before. And one of the things that I think is going to be interesting going forward is, what is this Packers team going to look like going forward from this day? And I know that you have a lot of insight on more of the ins and outs of the team in terms of contract things and what guys may go where and what guys they're looking to keep versus maybe shuffle up things and get rid of. So if you want to go into some of that, I think that provides a pretty interesting insight to heading on from here.
Yeah, sure. I gotcha. So the Packers projected cap space for next year is negative 38 million. And this is per Spot Track, a site that's great. I always use it for any time I need like salary cap things, contract things. It's a great site. But a lot of reasons why people were calling this the last dance is because of that impending cap hell. And we are diving right into it because there are a lot of players that have albatrosses of contracts. Like Aaron Rodgers is, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league right now, but a $46 million cap hit, which is approximately 22% of the total cap, that's a lot. And when you have
that's hefty.
Both Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, David Bakhtiari and Kenny Clark, all with cap hits over $20 million each, that is about what, if my math is correct, $120 million doled out to just those 5 guys.
At least, yeah.
It's like almost half of the cap space gone. And that's not even including the free agents that we have. Devontae Adams, who is largely considered the best wide receiver in the league, he's a free agent. Allen Lazard, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, Robert Tonyan, Devondre Campbell, first-team All-Pro linebacker, Rasul Douglas, all free agents, impact guys that are unrestricted free agents, can go anywhere they want. This is a problem. Look, the Saints found a way to get out of their cap hell because they were $100 million down at one point. The Rams, even with all of their stars, they've found a way to make it work. I mean, I have faith that the Packers can make it work, but God, it's going to be hard. And it's very do they
pick and choose.
It's very, very likely that some of these guys have played their last snaps as a Packer, and it sucks because this team was so fun to watch too. You know, I wish we could just run it back and, you know, roll out the same lineup for 2022 and try it again. But you only get a certain number of chances, and we have blown so many, not just with this core, but with a different one. Like, we've only missed the playoffs 3 seasons since 2007. And we have 1 Super Bowl appearance and 1 Super Bowl victory to show for it with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. I understand that most teams would kill for that kind of regular season success, but when you make it time and time again in the postseason and you come up short,
you have to expect more out of the kind of talent that you guys have had the privilege of running with for the past.
And it is a privilege.
20 or so years.
It's amazing to see these guys play because they're so good and they're so talented and you know what they can be, but they weren't, and they're not this year. And that uncertainty is, it's kind of scary in Packerland because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with Aaron because Aaron Rodgers has an opt-out. Yeah. Is Devontae Adams going to stay, or is he going to chase a bag in free agency? Because he's projected to get around $25 million, which would make him the second highest paid wide receiver in the NFL.
As he should be, quite frankly.
Oh, he most definitely deserves it, but he'll probably go as Aaron goes. And what about the other free agents that we have? Zadarius Smith, he's an all-pro talent. He has an opt-out as well. He's under contract, and it's a huge cap hit. But what are we going to do with him? Is David Bakhtiari ever going to be healthy? Like, so many
struggling with injuries is definitely very difficult for you guys this year.
So many question marks with these guys. And that doesn't even mention young stars like Jair Alexander. He's already regarded as one of the best corners in the league. What happens when his rookie contract is up and he deserves an extension? Because he does. What are we going to do there? So many question marks and so many things left unanswered that I don't know if we're going to ever have this level of team again anytime soon.
Yeah, and that's where it gets real interesting of, like I said, like what do they pick and choose to try to retain the most from this team? Because one thing that was particularly interesting, I think one of the I believe it was a quote that came out of Rodgers' most recent interview after this game was the fact that he wasn't going to be here as in Lambeau in Green Bay if it was going to be part of a rebuild. So
which makes sense. Which makes total sense.
At his stage in his career,
he's 38 years old. He doesn't have time to be messing around with rebuilds. He wants to get that second ring now. Legacy is important to him, and he can still play at an MVP caliber level. He'll probably win it this year, unless Tampa Bay Tom has something to say about that, but he probably doesn't because he'll be sitting at home in the next round too, just like Aaron is. So he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He wants that second ring. And if the Packers are going to blow it up, it makes total sense that he's going to walk away and say, yeah, I want to go somewhere else. And that sucks because Aaron is the quarterback that I've known since the 2008 season. It's like Pittsburgh saying goodbye to Ben Roethlisberger, or the Giants when they said goodbye to Eli. It's
hard to picture those franchises without that face of their franchise that has been there for so many years. And we're just beginning to most likely get the hint for that for Pittsburgh and the Steelers. And it's like, you're starting to get some of the rumors and the knocks on the door for Rodgers in Green Bay. But one thing that you did say that I think is interesting to point out is chasing that second ring, and the fact that he only has one despite all of the postseason trips and all of the talent that he's had for all these years. They've had a lot of heartbreaking postseason losses. Not only
you want me to go
5,
through?
In the past 10, but we're looking back almost 15 years at this point to go through some of these Rodgers' painful playoff losses. And I think it's worth taking a look at some of the kind of the what caused each one, because Rodgers was probably the most staple piece throughout all of those in most of the recent history games, other than arguably this one where he did not have a fantastic game. But what has been the factor in each of those leading up to this point?
Tim, the funny thing about that is heartbreaking playoff losses are synonymous with at least what my existence as a Packers fan has been. Because fun fact about me, my first memory of the Green Bay Packers going all the way back to 2007 was a heartbreaking NFC Championship loss. Lawrence Tynes kicking a 47-yard field goal in overtime to send the Giants to the Super Bowl in Brett Favre's last game as a Packer. That is what I remember as far back as I can go. So
from day one,
from quite literally as far back as my memory reaches, heartbreaking playoff losses. And I stated previously, since that, we've only missed the playoffs 3 times and 1 Super Bowl to show.
Talk about consistency.
So
the consistency has been there,
but there's a lot in the middle that is there to uncover. And do we want to go in chronological order, or do we want to like bounce around the various causes? Because we can do both.
I think chronological is pretty
okay.
Nice and pretty logical there, because it covers the sort of also the stages of Rodgers' career as he kind of grew into from super talented, high expectations or off the charts expectations rookie to the veteran that he has been for the past like 7-8 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rodgers missed the playoffs in his first year as a starter. He was drafted in 2005, sat for 3 years behind Brett Favre. In 2008, they missed the playoffs, but in his first playoff appearance in 2009 in the NFC wild card, there's the shootout in the desert, the first shootout in the desert, where Aaron Rodgers played Kurt Warner's Arizona Cardinals, and they lost in a 51-34 45 ball game, which at that point set the record for the most combined points in an entire postseason. Rodgers played fantastic in that game, 28 of 42, 423 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception, but Kurt Warner was almost perfect. 29 of 33 and 379 yards for 5 touchdowns and no picks. It was 45-45 at the end of regulation. And the first drive, Aaron Rodgers is sacked. He kicks the ball up right into Carlos Dansby's hands, and he goes into the end zone for the first of many Aaron Rodgers playoff losses.
Just like that, game over.
And I want to note that the defense gave up 51 points. This is a common theme in this. Defense giving up more points than Rodgers can score. 2010, the next year, they won it all as the 6th seed. So, woohoo, Rodgers got his ring, and everything was happy in Packerland because the next year they thought they were going to run right back in. You go 15-1. You're the defending Super Bowl champions. Aaron Rodgers wins his first MVP, and you're hosting the New York Giants, who just barely squeaked in. And then the next thing you know, you're turned around, and Eli Manning and the Giants are putting up 37 points in a loss. And you're going home early after having one of the best regular seasons the Packers have ever had. And it sucks. Defense let him down again. In 2012, Colin Kaepernick for the first time, when they go into San Francisco and Colin Kaepernick and Frank Gore run all over that Packers defense. So the run defense isn't just a new thing with Raheem Mostert, but we'll get to that later. Colin Kaepernick, 16 carries, 181 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's the quarterback. Frank Gore, 23 carries, 119 yards, and a touchdown. And might I mention, the defense gave up 45 points. It's kind of hard to win.
You're seeing a recurring theme.
There is a recurring theme here. Now we see the first of more recurring themes in 2013. The first last second field goal loss to San Francisco at Lambeau. So this year's playoff loss was not the first time that the Packers had lost to the 49ers in the playoffs on a walk-off field goal.
Getting some major flashbacks from that one.
Oh, yes. Where have we been here before? Phil Dawson kicks a 33-yard field goal as time expires and the Packers go home. 2014. Tim, you can provide a little bit more insight on this because I think this is one of the more memorable games that we have had in our lives so far. The first NFC Championship game loss, the first of 4, where the defense plays well for the first 3 quarters, forces Russell Wilson to throw 4 interceptions, right? With 10 minutes and 53 seconds to go, they go up 19-7. And then you snap your fingers. They had in the bag. You snap your fingers. Brandon Bostic forgets how to catch an onside kick. And a crazy 2-point conversion later, it's 22-22. And the first possession in overtime, Russell Wilson is tossing the ball to Jermaine Kearse over everybody else. And the Packers are going home and the Seahawks are advancing to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. That 12, what an insane game that one was. I remember watching that game so clearly, and I was blown away by
with 10 minutes to go, and
the turn of events in that one. Just the amount of spectacular plays that the Seahawks had to pull off there after the Packers controlled the Seahawks offense for like the whole game. It was just complete flip 180, and it was arguably one of the
most exciting. Foot off the gas.
Yeah, it was one of the most exciting and wild NFC Championship games that we've seen in a long time.
Oh, yes.
But of course, another heartbreak for the Packers.
Of course. And then we go to the next year, 2015. We're back in the desert in Arizona, which is also known as the Jeff Janis game because nobody knew who Jeff Janis was. And this is very much a one-hit wonder as it gets. I mean, he was our number 4 receiver coming in, him and Jeff Aberderis, because we were so banged up at wide receiver. But Jeff Janis had 7 catches on 11 targets for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns, which included a last-minute drive where in the last 55 seconds, they drove 91 yards to tie the game on a Hail Mary. But then in overtime, Aaron Rodgers doesn't get the ball back because let's not cover the Hall of Fame wide receiver who's second all time in receiving yards, Larry Fitzgerald, because Carson Palmer rolls, throws it back across the field to Larry Fitzgerald. They go all the way down the field. And then 2 plays later, a little shovel pass, and the Cardinals are moving on. So another overtime heartbreaker. And then we got 2016, the run the table year. So
ironic.
Yeah, ironic, right? They ran into the Atlanta Falcons and that juggernaut. Matt Ryan's MVP year and Julio Jones, they absolutely lit up the Packers defense. The Packers defense gave up 44 points. Matt Ryan, 27 of 38 for 392 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Julio Jones, 9 receptions on 12 targets for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. They were monsters in that game, and there was no stopping them in Atlanta. They were absolutely on a tear. Of course, the Packers were just happy to be there. And then, of course, the next 2 years, you miss the playoffs, which is rare at all. And then you get this guy, Matt LaFleur, and he comes in with his West Coast offense from Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, et cetera, et cetera. You turn around with the same roster that went 6-10 and missed the playoffs, and you're 13-3, and you're in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. The third time's the charm against the 49ers, and it's in Santa Clara. And then there's this little running back by the name of Raheem Mostert, who just so happens to run for 220 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Purdue made, baby.
Yeah, he was he was definitely a steam engine on that game. There was no stopping him. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo only threw the ball 8 times, so who needs him? Just turn around and hand it off and let Raheem Mostert and the 49ers hang 37 on the Packers. And then you go to 2020, the COVID year, where you go 13-3 again. And this time it's different. You have the 1 seed, you have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Oh boy. But then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come to town, and a quarterback.
In comes a man named Kevin King.
I was going to talk about Tom Brady, but we could talk about Kevin King too. Scotty Miller burning him at halftime to give
game changer.
Yeah, to give the Buccaneers another touchdown and more momentum. And the defense, they actually really didn't play that terribly that game. They had 3 interceptions in the second half from Tom Brady, but we got a grand total of 3 points from it. So that's why we lost that game. And of course, there is the famous decision, Matt LaFleur on Tampa Bay's 8-yard line, 4th and goal, down 8 points. Instead of going for it, elects to kick the field goal and take the points, which at the time made perfect sense to me because there was enough time where a stop, the defense had been playing well. You get the ball back with about 1:50 to go, and Aaron Rodgers goes down and scores a touchdown, and ta-da, you're in the Super Bowl. But that decision is so harshly criticized because of what happened next. Kevin King draws a defensive pass interference on a 3rd and 8, which gives Tampa Bay an automatic first down and lets them run out the clock and lets them go to the Super Bowl and win it. And then we got this year, which was the tale of 2 halves. We were playing great in the first half, and then special teams happened. And despite not giving up an offensive touchdown, here we are.
Yeah, this was supposed to be the different one where the defense actually stood up and did their job and got what they needed to done. But this time was the one rare opportunity where Rodgers just didn't necessarily have it. And I don't know how much of that really was a product of his own mistakes versus the 49ers just actually coming out and playing pretty good defense, but it wasn't enough. And it's just another one to add to the tally of the recent heartbreaks for Green Bay Packers. It's quite a history.
Yeah. I watched every single game, every single heartbreak. I remember them all. You know, it's a growing list. So what's wrong with the Green Bay Packers?
there's a lot to be said. There's a lot
There's
to
a
point
lot
to,
to be
but
said, whether
and
it's defense in general or run defense or special teams. What's wrong with the Green Bay Packers is that they have failed to put together a complete team that has been fundamentally sound on all three phases of the ball: offense, defense, and special teams. Because for as strong as one phase or two phases have been, there is a third phase that has been sorely lacking, and that has come back to bite the Packers in the ass year after year after year. And football is the ultimate team game. And until you put together a roster that is able to play together for a full game, sound football on all three phases of the ball, and not make horrendous, silly mistakes, you will not win. It is simple as that. And we have wasted too many chances of Aaron Rodgers' career. And if this is the way it ends, so be it.
You said it the best. There's not much more that can be said to wrap up the existence of the Green Bay Packers for this last 15 to 20 years. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up.
Tim, how do we fix it? How do we fix it?
The question is what else can you do? I think.
What do you do for the future? Do you get a new special teams coordinator? That would be nice. I would love a new special teams coordinator. I would love a new punter / holder.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get a new kicker, fine. But
it depends on who
Mason
you blame.
Crosby for that whole time. So if you want to stick with Mason Crosby, okay. He hasn't been the issue really, right? Get guys that know how to tackle in the return game.
Yeah, and you have a good point there. There's been so many miscues in there. It's who do you blame? Do you want to get a new coordinator? Do you want to shake up the guys at the position?
Like,
do you think it's something they can be taught?
Do we get a new punter?
Or do you need new people?
I think we get a new punter. That's for sure.
That might help.
That might certainly help.
I think at this point it's worth making that move to see if it can, because it can't get much worse than it's been right now.
Before that, try to bring as many of the guys as you can back. Try to find a way to run it back one more time. Because as much as I said, if this is the way it ends, so be it. This can't be it. This can't be Aaron Rodgers' legacy with the Packers. Please, one more time. Bend the salary cap. Come together. Find a way to do something, anything, to run this roster back one more time. Fix the special teams. Get the guys back. Re-sign Devontae. Have guys take pay cuts or restructure their contracts to where it's more team friendly.
Yeah, I mean,
but are you really going to give up with this core after this many tries? Is this really how it's going to end?
You saw Brady do some of that with the Buccaneers as well to hold on to their team going into this year with restructuring his contract, taking less money so that they could keep the important guys to that team. And to be fair, if Rodgers really wants to keep that talent that he has and try to stick around, then I think that's what he's going to have to do. But you're right, as an organization, the Packers have to try to keep the pieces that they have.
I truly believe that Aaron Rodgers can win a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers in 2022 if you run back this roster and make the tiny tweaks needed to be a complete football team on all three phases of the ball. I truly believe you can do that.
Yeah.
But the question is, will they? And we'll see in the coming months the series of events that leads to the future of this team, because it's going to be very telling whether we run it back or whether we blow it up and start all over again. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, and I think you said it best is how are they going to do this? But you really do believe that they can, because they've got the pieces. But I think that's going to be all from us today. It's crazy NFL playoffs. We've been sort of diagramming it along the way with predictions and recaps from every round. We've got some regular season contracts, regular season videos mixed in there. We've got an NHL video popping back there. We really appreciate all the support that we've got recently.
Love you guys.
It's been real fun to watch, and we love making content for you, and we're going to keep that up from you. So in the meantime, you'll see more from us soon. We've got some more stuff coming up, but until then, peace.